Welcome to the No Fear podcast and the No Fear live broadcast. I'm your host, Tony Lauer. If you're into mindset training, performance psychology, personal development, you'll dig this new format. No Fear Live is a unique broadcast, and it's different from the No Fear podcast. We decided to go live because we wanted to create the opportunity to interact with people like you all over the world, where anyone can log in and ask questions, and in some cases, you may even get invited into the show. The great thing about the live broadcast is that it's much more personal for the listener. That's you. Remember, self-defense isn't always about a confrontation with someone else. The first and most important fight is winning the one inside your head. Hey everybody, and welcome back to No Fear Live. I've got a really interesting, cool guest, Vinny Crispino from the Pain Academy. Vinny and I do a little prebrief here. Anyone who listens to my podcast knows that I've had chronic pain for like 30 years. Neck injuries from martial arts, combatives, doing crazy things. I grew up in the era where let's go light means we're going to try and knock each other out when we got in the ring, and you didn't warm up. You just tapped gloves and you went. And so I missed the golden era of prehab, rehab, warm up, bands, lacrosse balls, and all that stuff. Vinny's story, and I'm going to have him tell it. That's why I have him on here. But I want to tell you something about the type of person he is. We had scheduled a call to do the podcast, and after hearing some of the issues I was dealing with, even though like I've had acupuncture, chiropractor, acupressure, every type of modality, and some stuff was working on me, but I still had lingering pain. And what Vinny said, he said, let's not do a podcast. Let's work together a little bit. And so he took a couple hours out of his day and did a remote session with me, checked out my body, made me take off my shirt, which was kind of embarrassing. I gotta start counting macros again. And he put me through, what was it, Vinny? Like, I think maybe 6 exercises, some basic, there's maybe 6. And I started doing them, and I haven't missed a day. And I will tell you this, guys, I don't endorse anything that I haven't done. I got lots of people who hit me up and go, hey, can I be on your podcast? Want to, they're promoting a book or they're promoting an idea. And I don't like to do stuff if I haven't experienced it. And intuitively, Vinny picked up on that. He worked with me. I did the stuff. And I will tell you that my posture and pain has subsided greatly since doing this. Only been about 2 weeks, I think. Only about 2 weeks, man.
Beautiful. I love hearing that.
Yeah. I still have, and it's funny, those of you listening, and I don't know if you remember when I told you about my audience. We have, about 18,000 people on our list. And most of them are law enforcement, military, firefighter, martial artists, CrossFit athletes, So I will tell you this, and this, but I expect it'll generate a smile anyhow. Every one of us is in fucking pain, right? There's no way. I mean, just if you're locomoting about the planet, that's fancy for walking. Everybody, gravity. If you're not doing stuff to stabilize and reset your body and reset your nervous system, you're going to be in pain. It's just normal. But anyways, I wanted to let you know what type of human he was, and I appreciated that time. And I've been doing this stuff. Literally, I haven't missed a day since then. And I'm anxious to dive in more to the rest of the program, because I can feel parts of my body are stuck or hung up anyways. But Vinny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We've run out of time. Thanks for coming. And we'll see you another time. Joking.
Yeah, good job today. We'll see everybody later.
Yeah, see you there. Vinny, you got a crazy background. You were, a high level athlete, a love of surfing, and you injured yourself pretty severely surfing. Why don't you give us, you were stuck in an elevator. How did this happen, and what led you here?
Yeah. So really long story short, I was a great athlete. I was an 8-time All-American, Division I collegiate athlete. I had 30 plus Colorado State records. I was really good at swimming. And I thought that this skill of being great in the water would transfer over to surfing. And I was a much better swimmer than I was a surfer. I wiped out on a really big wave and my lower back caught my fall. My lower back impacted a rock, or I should say, a rock impacted my lower back. It was a immediate life altering traumatic injury. I fractured my T12 vertebrae. The force of the impact created so much trauma and damage. My spine shifted 21 degrees to the side. And
Jesus.
my story from there is a lot like everybody else's, which is you have pain. What do? You go see the experts, you go see the doctors, you go see the management specialists, chiro, acupuncture, yoga, PT, massage. I mean, you just do all the things. And a lot of them were helpful. They helped me in certain ways in certain times. But years after the herniations healed, years after the fracture healed, I was just getting worse. I just felt less and less capable of being a human being. My quality of life was getting worse. My capacity to move and just exist was getting worse. And nothing was really healing. Nothing was getting better. I was just kind of good at learning the things that I just couldn't do any longer, which was a lot. And so this really sent me down a completely different path in life. And I took it upon myself to really understand that I'm the only person that's going to rescue myself. I'm the only person that's going to save myself. And I put myself back through school. I studied to become a certified personal trainer. Then I became a corrective exercise specialist, went on to become a specialist with postural restoration, went to Stanford School of Medicine to study exercise physiology, their short course program. And it was just certification after certification of how does the body work and how do you put it together again when it stops working? And this is what I've made my life mission. And I've, I didn't learn about pain through a textbook. I learned it because I lived it. I know what it's like to be at rock bottom, and I know what it's like to just be miserable. And every single movement, to just even standing up or dropping something on the floor, and how much fear and hesitation there is, because it's just gonna fucking hurt. You know it's gonna really hurt when you just move and exist. I know what that life is like. I've been there, and I know also what's on the other side of really implementing a sound strategy of self-care. And it worked for me. And I've taught it to people, and they've now gone on to spread it with others because they care about the ones that are in pain and they're suffering. And it's just kind of turned into, I was a single success story. It turned into one other person, and it just spread like wildfire.
Nice. I got a bunch of thoughts racing through my mind, and I'm going to grab my notebook in a second because as you're talking, I got questions, and I'm guys, this is going to be very selfish because I've got, when Vinny and I talked, I was really just a sponge, letting him assess my body and stuff, and I didn't get into the questions. One of them was everyone on this call knows what PTSD is, of course, post-traumatic stress. And so that's like, hey, that hurt. Last time I moved that way, my nerves did this, or my back went out, or whatever. And so now you're afraid of that movement. But the psychology of that, this is something I actually coined in the law enforcement community. There's post-traumatic, but then when you're anticipating it, it's actually pre-traumatic. You're actually, right? So I don't know if you ever played with that term or heard that term, but it's
I like it.
Yeah. So feel free to use it, but pre-traumatic, like we know that you wake up, how many of us have woken up from a bad dream, sweating and shaking and freaking out, right? But we weren't really physically doing stuff. So the pre-traumatic can be in many ways as powerful as the post. And it's setting you up for failure. The mindset is there. I remember, in one of the exercises we were doing, it was causing some pain and some tension, and I started to get nervous about it. So I was actually facilitating it getting worse, and you very calmly said, I just want you to focus on your breathing right now. I just want you to just settle in and settle into your breathing. And just as an aside, guys, everyone on this podcast has heard me talk about the importance of learning how to breathe, right? There's so much research on how good it is for you. So my question with all this preamble is, for you, when you were going through this, when you decided, okay, like, was it, okay, I've gone to all these specialists and it's not working, I've got to figure this out myself? Or was it for you like just like an intuitive exploration? In other words, like did you slam your hands on the desk, go, enough, I'm gonna fix this myself? Or was it really intuitive while you were playing with the stuff? So just in your personal journey, because like you described, like 4 or 5 pretty serious programs to invest in consecutively. Was that part of, I need to get educated to understand? Was that intuitive or was that intentional?
Yeah, it was both, because as I'm going through the system that we've all been through, I was subjected to the same fallacies and the problems that everybody else was subjected to, which is, this isn't sustainable. This isn't, I've got to pay somebody for the rest of my life to get help. And it was understanding that there was a difference between passive therapy and active therapy. Passive, you bring your body to somebody and they do something to you, right? Active therapy is something you do yourself. And with active therapy, you can control the process. And so it was going after passive therapy, being sold that that was the right way. It just didn't make sense. There was no sustainability in it, right? What do I do in between the appointments? What are things that I need to do to manage this problem myself? And because there were so many holes, this is years into the rehabilitative process, I still had no idea what I was doing. This is why I went back to school, and this is why I got an education, because I needed to fill in, what am I not getting from these appointments? What am I not getting from the thousands of dollars that I'm paying a year? Nobody's going to care as much as you are, right? And so it was part intuitive of me really having to participate more in my own rescue. And then also me understanding that the things that I'm doing, they're a business and they rely on people keep coming back for business. And there has to be some sustainability. And there was no sustainability. Nobody was teaching that to me. So it really wasn't until it was just one of those universal things where somebody ran into me, a complete stranger, and said, hey, I want to help you. They saw me struggling in a grocery store. I couldn't pull off the gallon of milk into my cart, and they saw me struggling. This was at the peak of my injury, and they said, hey, let me help you. And no, I don't need your help. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm already in a lot of treatment. And he's like, no, I really want to help you with your leg. And I said, leg? It's my back's broken. My leg's got nothing to do with it. And he's like, look, I don't want your money. Just come and see me, just like you and I did, which is, let me show you. Let me just give you something to go do. And it was in this appointment that I met this guy. He didn't touch me. There was no invasive procedure. There was no manipulation. Hands off. He just asked me to lay in certain positions. Go do this. Breathe like this. Move your leg like this. Completely hands off. And for the first time, man, at the end of the appointment, the whole time I thought this was a waste of time and money and energy, I stood up. It wasn't a miracle, but it was better. Why was this thing better? The stuff that you and I did, which is just down regulating the nervous system and actually trying to restore basic muscle function. Why was that the most successful thing? And I realized I could do this every day at home on my own. I didn't need this guy to show me and keep paying him to show me. And I was mad that I was years into the rehabilitative process, and this was the first time somebody was actually showing me how to restore movement patterns. And that was the aha moment of, oh my God, there is so much out there that was never even recommended to me. And this was the stuff that made the biggest difference. So I knew that if I was going to bring this information to the world, I had to be educated. I had to understand the academic side of things. And I couldn't just say, trust me, it works, it works, it works. So it was a lot of part experience and part intuition that led.
Very cool. You just froze your back. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that. This have you stayed in touch with that guy? Did you ever run into him again? Let him know like everything that happened, or you just?
Yeah, so I hired him for a few years. I mean, he was a mentor that really helped me fill in the blanks. At this time, I had a lot of the academic knowledge that I needed. I was still very confused. The textbooks weren't really showing me, right? They would say, hey, if you have this problem, go down this protocol, but they wouldn't explain why it wouldn't work, right? Why the stretches aren't working, why exercise, why every time I'm younger, I just got in more pain. They weren't explaining the nuances to the craft and the art and science of restoring the body's capacity to move. And this is where working with my own body, working with this mentor, and working with clients, this is what really started to fill in the gaps of missing knowledge that I wasn't picking up from the academic side of things.
How long ago was the back injury?
About 14 years ago at this point.
Wow. And tell everyone what you're going to do this week.
I'm about to fly out to Patagonia to complete my next ultra marathon, a 50-mile race in grueling. We're not just talking 50 miles. We're talking rough terrain in a rough environment. And I never in a million years thought I'd be doing this. I just wanted to wake up. I just wanted to wake up and not have pain be in my alarm clock and not have dread before I even got out of the day.
That's a great
That's
one.
what I wanted to do. And so never in a million years did I think I'd become an ultra marathon runner, but it just got to the point where I became pain-free and I'm working with people, helping them achieve their dreams. And I helped another ultra marathon runner get across the finish line of a 100-mile race. And I'm wondering, why the hell am I not doing this myself?
Right.
So then I started to do it.
It's pretty impressive. One of the things in one of the original videos I saw of you, was running. Well, it was a voiceover, and you were running, and your gait and movement was so elegant, and I'm like, this guy had a broken back at some point. So it's amazing what you've done. It's also, it's a joke. If I'm going to hijack this for a second, just because my audience will appreciate this. I teach self-defense. Self-defense is, if it's taught properly, it teaches you how to avoid violence. It teaches you how to de-escalate violence. And if push comes to shove, it teaches you how to protect. But all those phases should be preemptive and proactive, not reactive. Most marketing for self-defense is learn from this guy. He's been in 600 street fights. Learn from this guy. He's been in hundreds of street fights. And I always thought, and this is going back to the 80s, that getting in a street fight was like getting in a car accident. Like something was off there. You shouldn't, and I would make the joke, you would never send yourself or your family member to a driving school where the marketing was, learn to drive from us. All of our instructors have been in hundreds of car accidents, and we've gotten thousands of speeding tickets. We're so experienced. Well, I'd be going, no, you must suck, right?
Yeah.
And so, where I'm going with this is there's a lot of people who, Hippocratically do no harm. They're in there, but they haven't gone through the pain or the fear. And so they're learning from, working on a cadaver or reading a book or working with other people. And again, that's part of the process. So I really think it's cool that you did all the academic stuff. What's interesting, of course, is that, you had the injury and lived it. And I love that line. I didn't want to wake up and have, pain be my alarm clock, because that is definitely, I get out of bed and I pause for a second and I got to catch this, a buddy of mine, Dr. Andrew Locke out of Australia, also another really special human. He was working on me, and he said the most important thing that he caught with me is how negative my mindset was around chronic pain. Mm-hmm. That as resilient as I am and as tough as I am, I would go into each thing like going, oh, this is probably going to suck. And that's something I think we need to catch and purge, because that's that pre-traumatic where it just maybe amplifies the potential for failure. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So look, if you were to tell me in the peak of my injury that my emotions and my relationship with pain my relationship with intensity was half of why I wasn't getting better, I probably would have flipped you off. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, I remember seeing my broken back on an x-ray on the light up board. To me, it was very physical what the problem was. It took me almost 10 years to understand the emotionality of how we relate to pain and sensation and how we think through all of these things is either going to be the thing that sets you free or the thing that holds you back. And let me make this real for you. Let me give you a really good example. People who come to me, who come to this program, typically have a lot of experience with pain for a long period of time, which is the definition of chronic pain, right? And they think that there's this big, intense problem that they have, which means they need to bring a lot of intensity to solve it, right? Because we have to solve intensity with intensity. But what did you and I do? We didn't just go bang and pull on stuff and put you to your extreme limit of your threshold of pain tolerance. We did the opposite. We taught you how to breathe and relax and how to calm things down. I only knew how to fight pain. I only knew how to tense up and resist it. I only knew how to have that pre-traumatic stress response of when I would feel pain and limitation in my body, which was almost every exercise. I was broken. I only knew how to activate that sympathetic fight, flight, freeze mechanism and brace and hold and suspend my way through motion. I never understood that rehabilitation is about teaching your body that movement is safe again and deconditioning that fear, hesitation, panic, flight, fight, freeze response that we've got conditioned so heavily to movement. And this is the emotionality of it that was missing in the PT and the massage and all of the other therapeutic modalities that I went through, which is how do you actually have a conversation and coach yourself while you're trying to restore your body? What is your nervous system going to listen to? And, one way that I try to explain this is, if let's say you're at home alone, right? If you hear a really loud, aggressive knock and somebody's shouting on the other end of the door, are you going to want to answer that door? Or is that a hell no? Are you going to want to hide and avoid it? But if it's a calm knock, if it's a gentle knock, if it's a compassionate knock, and there's a loving, kind, sweet voice on the other side of it, you as a human being are going to respond differently. It's your relationship to the stimulus that's going to determine your ability to get better or not. And most people just use this fierce aggression, and rightfully so, because it's pain, it sucks, it hurts. Nobody wants it. I get that. But when you only know how to tense up and resist and fight and look at this thing as a battle, somebody's going to lose. If you're going to war with your nervous system, one of you is going to lose, and chances are it's you, right? So the emotionality of how you mentally prepare to work on your body is the thing that is the great playing field. It's the thing that will determine if you get better or not. And this wasn't in any of the exercise physiology books. Right. It wasn't in any of my anatomy exams. None of this stuff. This is the hard knock stuff that I had to learn myself. Tony, the exercises that didn't work for me are the same exercises that ended up helping me break free. They're the same exercises I now teach people. The only difference is how I approach them. That's it. There was no magic pill. There was no magic formula. It was literally how I navigated everything mentally and emotionally pre, during, and post. That was the missing key, and nobody's talking about it.
Amazing. I dig it. I dig it. What was are there, I'm asking this, I know the answer, but I'm asking it just because that's what wannabe journalists do. Just for the audience out there, are there, because I guarantee, anyone, we're streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and then this will get shared and pumped out. There's not a person, I sent a little message out before that every one of us is an aging athlete. If you're a tactical athlete, you have pain, so listen carefully. Tactical athletes are very open up, right? We're not, we're And I thought you were going to go somewhere different with that for a moment. And I get your metaphor and I loved it. But if someone's banging on my door, if when I approach the door, I'm going, okay, I'm coming, right? Like it's an eye for an eye, right? And as opposed to, hey, can I help you? I'll be with you in a moment. One of the things I learned from you very quickly, when you said, hey, it's safe, you're on the ground, you're safe here, you don't have to worry about falling or balance or let gravity and breathing. And I told you this, I think the first week we were in touch pretty frequently, and like every time I finished the session, and there's everyone listening to this, every time I finished the session, I wanted to sleep. My nervous system was so spun up, and I do the session, which would take, let's say, about 25 minutes or so, 25, 30 minutes to do. But I wanted to sleep after. And in one of my messages to Vinny, I said, hey man, I got to find a different time to do this because I'm doing it first thing in the morning, and then I got to go teach, but I don't want to teach because I want to go to sleep. But what I'm letting you guys all know is that the Bruce Banner, Incredible Hulk, when you're dealing with pain, it's like, fuck, I don't believe this again, motherfucker. Okay. And it's okay. I'll walk faster. I'll hit harder. And I was getting angry at my pain a lot of times and blasting through it, which in many cases got me through a workout, but I was sure pissing off my nervous system. And so I hear you loud and clear. So my question for everyone out there, are there any strategies or tips other than just believe that the mind navigates the body? I mean, I wrote that in 1993 in one of my articles, but forgot to apply it to myself with my own pain management. Are there strategies that you recommend to your students to help them make that leap? Because like you said, at the height of your pain, if I had said, most of this is in your head, you'd have gone, hey, fuck off, this really hurts. So how do you help somebody?
Well, it's acknowledging that it's the part that's in your head is how you relate to it. I agree. There's probably a very big physical, mechanical problem, and it's going to take us working with both the mental and physical simultaneously. That's what's going to have the highest success rate. I love your Bruce Banner analogy. There's some situations where you want to probably be Bruce Banner in, right? You don't want to handle conflict with this big, loving, compassionate thing if you're in kind of a life or death scenario. But you got to think about this like a race car driver, right? We're trying to go around the track. There's certain gears that are appropriate for certain curves and certain straightaways. You only having one gear and dealing with life with one gear, that Bruce Banner, the force, the power, the fierceness, it's going to result in something. Us learning how to drop down and shift. Okay, now it's time to be Bruce Banner. Now it's time to actually practice compassion and gentleness and openness. And being able to transfer, switch in and out of gears, that's what's going to get you around the track the fastest. And that's what we want. We don't want to just get good at straightaways and barrel into the sidewall because we can't downshift into a different gear and we're just always on the gas. We have to learn how to use the gas and the brake. And that's what this world teaches us. I have, specifically for what you're talking about, the strategy, I have a 31-day meditation mindset course within my program that I systemically, over 31 days, teach people how to fundamentally change the emotionality and how they relate to pain. But here's the quick version of it. You have to first get down into an environment like what we did, right? Laying on your back, legs over a couch in a chair. And when you feel discomfort, when you feel pain, everybody listening to this, all I want you to do, if you agree or disagree that emotionality has to do with it, when you feel pain, where do you then go? Is there an emotion that shows up? Is there a feeling? Is there a memory? Is there something other than just the sensation that shows up to it? We first have to understand when pain shows up, what is your actual response? And most people are going to find it's tension, it's resistance, it's anger, it's fear. It's not really the pain itself, but it's them thinking about, fuck, now I can't train today. Now I can't go on this podcast and be who I want to be. Now I can't hold my son. Where does your mind then go? there is a space between feeling a sensation and then what happens next. And it's a really small space if you're untrained. If I can just get you to understand that sensation, reaction, if you can start to see that, just awareness is enough to actually be able to begin changing this relationship. It's not enough, but it's the starting point. We have to learn how to approach sensation in our mind with more than just the Bruce Banner tactic. And one of the challenges I think a lot of tactical people have, same thing with the legal system. If you're a lawyer, if your default is fight, that is software. We have to show that there's a different way to solve this particular problem. And it's not going to make you weak. It's not going to make you soft. It's not going to make you less capable. If anything, it's going to get you around that damn track a lot faster.
I love that. And in our system, we've got a whole program called the cycle behavior, which is the neural circuitry of fear. And we talk about a stimulus getting introduced and how that immediately triggers neuroassociations, how your brain's linking up symbols, your belief systems, and now you're in the fear loop and you're consuming time. You're not spending time because you're visualizing. So this is people familiar with our No Fear program. Like this is in sync with everything we talk about. And between any stimulus and the response is that gap, that proverbial gap, the refractory delay. And that's where we either get it together or we fuck things up. The harder things for us tactical athletes out there is we're used to either, running for barricading or charging a threat. Like as soon as something happens, you immediately, it's counter ambush. And so, this is a very interesting thing that I will tell you this while you were describing that, because I would do, I teach 4 times a week on Zoom in our tactical garage gym. The classes are 9 a.m. And I would do your session like for 30 minutes before I'd yawn, I'd get over there. But I noticed when I was demoing, I had more range of motion and better balance because my nervous system had calmed down. So after I got after I was probably like, if you wanted to attack me, there was probably a couple of minutes right after I finished Vinny's session, guys, that if you were going to jump me, that'd be a good time because I was really groggy. But after that, I would fuck you up. I felt, and I would notice that I'd be doing like demos and, like doing stuff. And I was like, wow, better proprioception, better kinesthetic perception. And what I hate though, and you'll have to, explain, maybe I'll learn it in your online course. I would be positive doing a move and I'd go, let's say I go to do it like demoing a knee and I grab my whatever I was going to hit. And part of my brain would go, this is usually where your left hamstring would cramp. Is it going to cramp? And I would say that not out loud, right? But I'd hear that message in my head, watch out. And then I would still do the move, but I'd go, huh, wow, it didn't cramp. That's cool. I want to get rid of that because that's a little bit of it. It's not the pre-traumatic, like, don't do this. It's like, you're going to do this, but you got to watch out. Does that make sense? Is that just part of the progression where I went from avoidance to, kind of like a nervous participation to, okay, I'm going to do this, watch out. Is this just like naturally part of the progression as I wean the pre-traumatic out of my brain? Does that make any sense?
As your window of function starts to improve, you are going to become more of an observer of how things are because you have normalized, and we all have to a very real extent, we've normalized suboptimal. We know if we kick a bag this way, or if we throw a punch this way, or if we do this move, we're going to have a response. And we get to become very familiar with our body and the way it becomes dysfunctional and the problems that we either have on the spot or how we're going to feel the rest of the day if we really push it too hard. Notice how I didn't want you to stop doing your life. The goal was to improve the quality of your life. So I gave you movements to change the function of your body that you were bringing into said activity. So you're going to notice there's actually a little bit of dissonance now. There's the Tony that you're used to, and now there's this little flickering window of difference of function where maybe things are less crampy. Maybe you can kick and react and go a couple more rounds with your students and mentor a little bit harder, because the body that we're bringing in is more neuromuscularly efficient. You are achieving the task with better muscle group activation, which means there's less dysregulation just getting the job done for hell's sake. So you should start to notice that as we go through. Now, it's really important to understand that step one and everybody else is that we have to relax the problem. If I just give you hard, strength, invigorating stuff, you're probably going to feel it faster, but we're just strengthening the problem. So step one is taking you out of this really strong normalization of dysfunction and bringing you back to baseline. You should feel more calm. You should feel more relaxed, a little bit more in peace with your body, less counter responding to your own self, and more just actually living into it. As the progression happens, so does the intensity, because I want to help prepare your system for whatever it is that you're doing. We're in the early stages of restoring this, which is just relaxing all of that prehistory of the problem that's compounding and compounding and compounding. We're trying to tame that. So when we get to work, more of the right joints in Tony's body and muscle groups are just capable of producing the movement that we want. So there are routines that calm you down. There are routines that amp you up. If I'm going to go on a 5-hour run, the last thing I want to do is be calm. Man, I need to get things going. Like if I'm going to go do sprint work, I need to hype the body up. And you can do so in certain ways. It's all just manipulating your nervous system and preparing it for the task at hand.
Let's pivot so that this is, I want to talk more about your business model and how you're coaching. There's a lot of people that are, and I'll use me as an example. I've got like digital courses on how to defend yourself. So you can't learn self-defense from a video because you're not in a class, you're not doing stuff. And I'm like, if you think, and I've had people say, I want to do Zoom with somebody, you can't learn. I go, well, if you can't learn from somebody either on digital or Zoom, there's two things, one of two things are going on, or both. One, you're not coachable, right? Or the guy teaching or the gal teaching sucks. Because if you flew to San Diego and sat in a class and I said something, or Vinny said something that like we've normalized suboptimal, that's a fucking heavy sentence. I need to remember that, right? So that's now emblazoned on my brain. And if I think about that, that's going to inspire how I train moving forward, because why would I want to be suboptimal? Ever. Mm-hmm. And so, but we didn't do anything, and that happened over StreamYard, folks, right? So you're hearing little gems of things that are hopefully going to inspire you to think differently, and if you think differently, you can begin to move differently. So obviously, you know that you discovered something. You had a broken back. Your life was a fucking mess. You're angry. You're frustrated. You're trying to do some stuff. And one day you had this like epiphany and you went, fuck this. And you went on this exploration. You discovered through healing yourself. And this is almost very parallel with how I developed the system that I did for self-defense. Is I was like, well, I'm afraid and I don't want to fight. How do I make myself more resilient? Well, I need to understand fear and I need to understand violence. It wasn't about getting good at just the physical. It was the avoidance and the de-escalation, which is everything that's missing. There's almost a parallel track there where everyone was like, how do you get over a headlock? How do you do a gun disarm? And I'm going, like, I want to be far away from that way before that shit even happens. I need to know what happens there. And that's kind of like how we built our stuff. I'm getting still, and I've been, in the industry now for 40 years, I still get pushed back about the digital, about the online. And so I want to talk want to ask you the questions about, like, did you have an in-person practice? Do you have an in-person practice? And then when did you decide to go online? And what can you tell people? Because most people can't access you personally, and you can't scale that, right? You can't,
Right.
So, maybe you could see 3 or 4 people a day and then you're fucking fried, but you're not, helping the world like that. So talk to me about like that journey and that insight. And then let's talk about your program, the movement program, and kind of share the insights about that with the audience.
Yeah, I'd love to. So all of the information that I teach came from a really successful private one-on-one practice. This thing took off like wildfire, like I told you. Very quickly, I got up to 60 sessions a week, Tony, and maintained 240 sessions a month. I'm telling you, it was 10 to 12 appointments, 5 to 6 days a week, like clockwork for years. It was the amount of things that I learned just through volume and repetition alone really helped kind of shorten that learning curve. So I had a really successful one-on-one business, and there was some truths that I uncovered. Everybody is completely unique. Everybody is different. Everybody's movement problems are unique, and they are exactly the same in many ways. Regardless of your age and your sex and your condition and your limitation and the disease and history and environment and sports and all the things that make you unique, regardless of all of that, there are basic principles that you have to learn about your body and movement. And when I was teaching at such a high volume, there were universal common denominators in every session, in every case study. For the first year or 2 years, everybody needed to learn the same things. This is what your ankles are. This is how you move your hips. This is what your knees do to support your ankles, knees, and hips. This is what spine movement is. This is how all of it interrelates. This is how you balance the right side with the left side, the muscles in the front and the back. Everybody was learning the same concepts. And this universal truth that I discovered is that before you go looking for hyper-specific needle in the haystack solutions, you have to master the basics first. And you can either pay me and fly out to Los Angeles. You can my one-on-one time to teach you the basics and handhold you through that process, or you can buy them at a much more economically feasible and accessible price and just get the online program. I created the online program to do the basic work, the foundational work that I needed everybody to go through. And there was a time where I wouldn't take on a client unless they did the year's worth of foundational work in the program, because what am I going to do? Teach the same damn thing over and over and have somebody pay me hundreds of dollars an hour to learn what I could literally teach you at the comfort of your own home and you just do every day on your own? I made myself useless when I discovered these tools because people don't need me. I'm not the variable in their healing. It's what I know. And what I know can be taught in the comfort of your own home. You don't need me to hold your hand. And furthermore, what I found with a one-on-one business, I was actually enabling people to check out and not be involved because I was doing the work. I was walking around their body. I was correcting their form. They're going to need me for how long? Remember, I got into this for sustainability. I didn't want to become a business that I loathed when I was healing and things didn't work. People were relying on me as a crutch. They were offshoring the responsibility of being able to be consistent, being able to be disciplined, and being able to get in tune with their body because they were paying me a lot of money to do so. When I started to teach people and send them to this online program, they had to actually learn it. They had to get back into their nervous system and become aware of what their body is doing in time and space. It removed me as an enabler, as a crutch to their actual healing process. So to the people who think that they need one-on-one in-person help, maybe, but before you go spend tens of thousands of dollars getting that help, I wonder what happens if you master the basics of movement and if you balance out your body first. How many of these super rare one-off unique issues actually tune themselves up? just by you actually being a more capable mover with higher quality, more neuromuscular efficiency. So years ago, I made the switch to not work with people really in person anymore. And I can't get into anything hyper specific if you don't have the basics figured out. This program, I digitized my process and my experience over what are the key steps that people need to follow for the first year. And what started out as everybody does the same program has evolved over the years into we now have an algorithm and an AI. So based on how you personally respond to these movements, you provide feedback, and then the program changes itself and caters itself over time to help you focus on more of the things that you need to do and more of the things that work for you. It's just taken on a life of its own, and it's streamlined healing. It's quite remarkable because you are I passionately believe this. You are the person that you're looking for. You are the expert that you're in search of. And it's only the people who are ready to understand that and realize that they have to take the action. Nobody's going to fix you for you. Those people are the ones that join the system, and the results are phenomenal.
I love that. And all I was thinking about, I was waiting for a moment to interject, and you just kind of like pause there, is a lot of people and everyone who follows me should be well aware of this. You know, we've gotten less disciplined in our older age. We've all gotten less disciplined. The last few years of the world has really impacted a lot of our, you know, like emotional energy, like to get involved in stuff. There's a real oppression out there, and fear's been weaponized. And to that point, you know, it's for some people, it's harder to get out of bed. It's harder to get that workout in. It's harder to care because, you know, there's this noxious, the fuck's going on. But at the end of the day, you know, you got you, and you got to get selfish again in a way. And there was a program that we do, you know, kind of a coaching mentoring program where I tell people there's like a phase of it where I talk about being selfish. How if you want to be the best father or mother, you need to be selfish. If you want to be the best athlete, you need to be selfish. You need to. It doesn't mean you're not going to play in the team, but if you're not holistically optimized, you can't expect the best out of yourself. So folks, if you listen, like how many of you, I wish I could see a show of hands, how many of you, when Vinny said, so I created this 1-year program, how many of you went, fuck, a year? Let me tell you this. When I had my neck injury that triggered the Bell's palsy, it was 5 years ago. That's also when I had the MRI that I discovered the stenosis, and I couldn't even walk 50 yards without stopping, squatting to release the pressure in the nerves in my back and my legs. I couldn't run. My fingertips would go numb. It was insane. I thought my life was over. If you had told me, hey, if you had said to me in 5 years from now, you know the expression, it takes a village. There's a few different modalities that I was doing that gave me a little bit of hope and a little bit of movement. And then adding, you know, Vinny's research and system has taken it to another level. Some of the other things is really interesting. Were physically more active. So while they would strengthen things, they weren't relaxing my nervous system. And that's really the piece that was missing. I really feel different in the last 2 weeks. And that's just 2 weeks, guys. But my point being here, how many of you, when you heard him say, yeah, online for a year, went, oh, that's not for me. And you're sitting in your car with your bad back, and you're going to get out of the car hunched over and stretch up and go, oh, right. And you're sitting over your desk. If you're an aging athlete, which is everyone listening here, there's one of my favorite lines I share all the time from Dan Gable, one of America's greatest wrestlers. He said, if it's important, do it every day. If it's important, do it every day. And I can't think of anything more important than your fucking mind, your body, your posture, your ability to move. So this is just a little bitch slap rant to everybody out there. You know, if if I told you, hey, you got to brush your teeth every day, none of you are going, oh, come on, man. Like, you should shower every day, especially if you're working out. Oh, that's ridiculous, right? So you've got to normalize this stuff. I don't know if there's anything you want to piggyback on that, because I'm sure you've heard that before.
So much. Look, I love having the conversation with somebody who reaches out, asks me how long, or they first reach out and say, hey, how long do I have to do this for? And my first answer is, or my first question back is, well, how long do you want to be pain-free for? When I was in pain, and rightfully so, the only thing that I was focused on was getting out of pain. So that mindset is quick fixes, short, immediate. Where's the 6-week back pain-free program?
Right.
When you can reframe the question to how long do I want to stay out of pain for, you start looking for long-term sustainability. My program, Tony, is a year at a minimum to do. It changes each year consecutively that you do it, because your body changes each year. The stuff that I teach you, you are going to do for the rest of your life. I'm not interested in giving people little hacks and tools. I want to help them develop a movement practice, because that's what sustainably does this. And for the people who have that emotionality of, I have to spend a year towards this, that's it. Maybe you don't have fear around pain, but your emotionality behind, oh, I have to spend time and energy onto this, your emotions have so much to do with why this problem's here. Tony, I've seen so many people who have said, hell with that, I'm not going to do a year-long program, and will message me 3 years later saying, shit, how much is it? They're going to spend the time anyways. You just spent 3 years not getting to the solution that really could have fundamentally changed your world and life. I'm not saying it's going to take a year to get out of pain. You might have some huge wins in the first month, first couple of weeks. Maybe it takes 6 months, but I know who you're going to be at the end of that year mark. And that's what we have to focus on now. So there is a saying, a mile into the woods means you have to travel a mile out of the woods. If you're coming to me with 5 years of chronic pain and movement problems, if you think a few months is enough to offset that, that's the mindset that we have to correct. Because if we don't, you are going to be in that vicious cycle of just looking for quick fixes and wins. And you are going to give up another decade of your life with absolutely zero progress, maybe a little bit of wins here and there. But are you actually fundamentally improving the quality of your life year over year? I don't know. I don't think so. And that's that vicious cycle that I was stuck in. So when I tell people a year, I lead with that, because the ones who get it and are already on that wavelength, I've done the quick fix BS. I'm here for something deeper and sustainable. Those are the people that I want to show. Those are the people that I want in the program. And those are the people that I want to guide. I don't even have on my website an ability for you to buy my program. You have to apply to it. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of mindset questions. And if you're here for, I'll give this 3 weeks of time, I can't help you. And I make it very clear to these people that I can't help them. Come back when you're ready for something deeper, because I'm not, for lack of better words, I'm not fucking around. I know the process and I know what it takes to restore this stuff. And it is going to take nothing other than your commitment, because that's what solves it. There's no exercise in the world that fixes problems. Programs do. And long-term programs are what solve these problems, not little quick wins and quick fixes. It doesn't work. And if it does, I just haven't found it yet. And send me a link, because I want to learn it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Guys, it's confusing motivation with discipline, right? And we, and everyone does that. Everyone does that. But you just got to be disciplined. You've got to do it. So someone, they apply, they say the right things, that gets them in, and that could be legit or disingenuous. They say that what the right answers are. It doesn't matter, because it's your body, it's your mind. Mm-hmm. I had a bunch of people when we started our program, which is kind of like yours. It's like long term, but it's all about the fear and the self-defense, where people are going like, I would love to do this, but I don't have the time. And it's a different thing, because this is like a daily practice, no different than intentional breathing and meditation, and you should do it, where most people who train with me for self-defense will never get into a fight, right? And haven't been in one since high school. So it's easy to go, well, it's been 30 years since I got attacked, so I'm going to skip this. For your stuff, the question I have that probably a lot of people are asking is what is the commitment? Assuming, because most people are like, I got 3 kids, I got work, I got this. What is the average commitment in, obviously it's going to vary, but how much time does somebody need to like the baseline program just to get it going?
I'm going to give you the 3-phase evolution of this. Okay. When you're starting, 15 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
We have to secure some wins. We've got to show you that it's not some huge laborious task to take care of yourself. With a few exercises, we can begin to make a change. Once we start to see what helps you move and feel better, we then move you into longer form routines, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, to give you more of what's actually making a difference. Once we really start to fundamentally make a difference, the third evolution is a completely different way to think about this stuff. You are no longer carving out an hour of your day. You have integrated this work into your day. There is no, let me go move and not take care of myself for 23 hours and then do really good for an hour. It's in the office. It's hanging out with the family. You're just assuming these positions and movements because you are now a master. You have integrated movement back into your day and your body's listening for it. So start out at 15 to 25 minutes, then evolve into 45 minutes to 60. And then there's an integration component to your life where maybe you actually don't have to do this preset routine every day. You're just in flow of moving and feeling better. I
dig that. Dude, we're gonna have to, when you get back from Patagonia, we have to talk, is like there's so much synchronicity with I call these tactical snacks, and I had all these people training with me in our last BTS 90, which is this 90-day program. But it's, I tell them, it's like there's no hour workout. Let's assume we don't have 90 minutes to work out. We're busy. How do you integrate this through your day so it's like compound interest? It's every hour I'm going to put $1 in the bank. Doesn't you go, what's the point of doing that? Well, if you do that the rest of your life, you can have a whole bunch of money in the bank. So it's this, how do I integrate this movement into my daily schedule? And we refer to them as like microdosing workouts, tactical snacks.
Let me give you an example. We've been having a 58-minute podcast. I'm not doing my mobility routine because I've been in a squat the whole time. So I don't have to go work on ankle, knee, and hip function because I've been here for an hour. I'm getting it done as you and I are connecting and as we're helping more people. This is what integration looks like. It just becomes a part of what you do. Maybe it's emails. Maybe it's XYZ. You're just doing the things because it's a part of your identity and who you are as a mover and somebody who's always flossing through movement and tissue. It could be that simple, and it often is.
I dig that. That's that's a pretty good squat you got going there.
Man, if you would have seen me years ago, it was like the oh shit was right here.
Right.
The body's incredible with what you can do when you just show up every day and take
you literally look like a 5-year-old kid sitting down playing in a sandbox there.
Yeah. Just making it simple.
Wild.
But it takes the integration to get here. Not 15 minutes a day. It's just slowly flossing into these and out of these positions every day. And, I wasn't one of those super gifted, blessed guys who always had that. I moved terrible for such a long time. And so this is why I believe so much in it.
Let's do, there's a couple of questions I want to get to. Let me pop this up here. So this is the name of the program, right? The movement program.
Yeah. Ingenious name, right?
Well, I love the Pain Academy. I love the name of the Pain Academy. I haven't seen, Elisa, put up the website there that they can, and here's a couple of case study pictures. Anything you want to talk about as far as like, how long is this insane transformation in posture? Over here, the woman on the left, how long is something like that? Has she been in
Yeah. So this is the really interesting thing. The photo on the left was about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
However, That's just to get there. Remember, the goal is not how do we get better posture. The goal is how do we maintain this long term. So I don't put timelines on any of my photos because it's the process of what you have to learn to stay there. That is what this is really about. She got those results in a couple weeks after just doing really basic corrective exercises on her spine. Now her work is to maintain this, because if she stops doing it, she's going right back to the photos on the left.
And what's the story with this gentleman on the right?
So this gentleman, he's got scoliosis, and he had hip and lower back imbalances so much. You can actually see the hypertrophy, how the muscles have developed way more on one side than the other. This was about 2 years to unwind this. And this is active work. One of the most consistent guys I've met in this program.
Amazing.
So it took him 2 years, and same thing. If he maintains it, if he maintains the work, he gets to maintain the progress.
That's crazy. Let me look over. Well, before we go to questions, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish we talked about? You're going to get off the call and you're going to go, shit, we didn't talk about this, or?
No. Well, the one thing that I'll tell you is, most people will use their pain to determine if something's working for them or not. And that is one of the worst ways to actually restore whatever problem is in your body, because pain can actually fluctuate a lot up and down. It can be, you already know this, everybody listening knows this. If you want to really restore your capacity to move and feel better, you have to shift your North Star from, am I in pain today or not? Does this hurt or not? To functional movement tests. For example, what is it? Bend, your ability to bend forward, your ability to squat, your ability to stand on one leg versus the other. If you can make simple movement assessments your North Star, it now becomes, how do I get better at those basic movement patterns? Because if your basic movement patterns, that's what we're used to monitoring your progress, your pain is going to fluctuate naturally. But if we know that your efficiency of movement's improving, you're on your way. Sometimes we could have 50% better squat, but the pain hasn't responded yet. So you might think it's not working, yet your range of motion has almost doubled, right? And these are the early on metrics that if we can look to use our movement patterns as our North Star and not rely on the subjective emotionality of pain, your chance of being successful is going to 10x at a minimum.
Amazing. And all of this stuff is all part of the course, obviously.
It's the first step, because if I can't teach you to solve a problem that you don't know anything about. So I start off the program by giving you 8 very specific movement assessments that you're going to use to track and monitor your progress throughout the course of the year.
Okay, let me see if I can find the questions. This isn't a question, but I figured you would dig this.
I love that. That's amazing. Eleanor, so sweet to have you here. That's beautiful.
Here's part 2 of that. And she's got commented a bunch in here, but there's like real life testimonials are always wonderful.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here.
Daniel asked a question that has nothing to do with your program, but I'll throw it in here while I grab another one. But because you weren't a runner first and you were helping a runner, just maybe you can speak to how do you build up to running ultras?
Yeah, really slow and over a very long period of time. I literally started off with a quarter mile. I thought I was going to die when I did a quarter mile run, because I've never been a runner before. It took me days to recover from a quarter mile run. And I didn't do it straight. I kept having to stop. I was deconditioned as hell. But that's where you start. Everybody's got a day one. And then a week later, it was a half a mile. And then a week later, it was a mile. And then 2 miles. And then I had a breakthrough experience and then could run 3 miles. But it was all still using the recovery tools that I teach. That was my way of going from never having been a runner to now competing and training in ultramarathons without an injury yet, which is almost unheard of in the running community. It's all because of the intuitiveness that you get to learn when you really just invest time in your body and you learn movements that help support you. So you do it one day at a time, 1 mile at a time. And it's the best advice I have for you right now.
Yeah. And that's,
most people think, one last thing about running, most people, 9 out of every 10 runners get injured, but it's not because running is injurious. It's that they just put too much distance and load on the body too fast. If you were to ease into it, you're not going to get injured running. The injuries happen from when the tissue isn't durable enough to withstand the mileage. So if you can just follow the 10% rule, every week at 10% of miles, you should fall right within this beautiful window of adaptation, and significantly lower chance and risk of injury.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. The other thing I think is what you said is you're resetting your nervous system through your program. You're not just, it's like the joke I made in the first 2 minutes of our intro. I was born in the 60s, and in the 70s and 80s when we were trained, like nobody warmed up.
Mm-hmm.
At least
yeah.
it was, let's go. And so, you can get away with that a little bit when you're 20, but not when you're 40 or 50.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question from Michael. More about breathing, but I'll let you read that. I'm going to read it out loud because we got some people on audio. Tony, question for Vinny. I personally use box breathing, which is 4-4-4-4, in concert with strenuous pain rehabilitation exercising. I find it calms me. Would that be something that you, Vinny, have found helpful? And I want to answer that, but I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah. So first of all, if you find it's helpful, then it's helpful. And I trust you're the only one hardwired to your body. You're the only one that can feel what you can feel. So if you notice this down regulation effect and it's calming, beautiful. I think you found something great. If you're doing box breathing and there's an even ratio of inhale, hold, exhale, hold, I would recommend slowing down the exhale. So maybe trying a 3-second inhale, a 4 or 5 second hold, and then a 6 or a 7 second exhale. Spend more time on the exhalation than the inhalation, and you might find that even helps more. But with anything breathing related, go slow. If you get dizzy or nauseous, then go back to what you have already found works.
Yeah. And Michael, there's a ton of really good research out about that slower exhale and its connection to speaking to neurologically the parasympathetic system and down regulating your state. So check that out. This is what I was going to jump on, the strenuous, painful rehabilitation exercising. I don't know what that means, Michael, but I would certainly, I'll tell you this, and you can message me privately. When I first started doing Vinny's stuff, and like I said, it was about 2.5 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been doing it every day. At first, I think it takes me, if I don't do it, the first week I did it based on our video. So I was listening to you when I was asking questions and taking time. And it took about 30 minutes. I've got the routine memorized. And now it's about 22 minutes when I just do it. At first, and this is interesting, guys, I'm so busy and just my personality, my energy. I was like, do I have another 22 minutes in the day? And then I started like about 3 or 4 days in, my nervous system settled so much. It was like I wanted to do it because it was a break from the noise of my life. Fucking emails, questions, getting ready for stuff. And then it was just figuring out okay, I want to go to sleep now. I don't want to go to work. Figuring out how to make that shift right there. And some of that is just some slow movement after that just kind of woke my nervous system up again. But like I said in the talk earlier, this is just 2 weeks, and it's not something I don't ever, like a couple of days I was traveling and it was like, okay, I got to get this in. I got to get this. Like my body wanted to do it. And that's what I want to tell everyone. And you don't develop discipline in 2 weeks for something, but my body responded so quickly to it it told me very quickly, you need to do this, whether you like doing it or not. And as soon as that happened, the resistance I had, which was intellectual resistance, do I have time? It was like, okay, I'm going to make this happen. And it's a non-negotiable appointment, so I would explore some of that, Michael. Did I get a lot of nodding and reactions? Is there anything you want to add to anything I just said there, Vinny? Just
Yeah, it's on the outside, 15 to 25 minutes a day at the start sounds like a lot. Even going up to 45 to 60 minutes sounds like a lot. However, when you have the experience of hell yes, this actually feels good. This is what changes. Oh man, this program's a year or two. I get to do this now. Now I have something that I can use to actually deal with and change these really gnarly things that I've been so damn accustomed and normalized to. When you are on the right program, I believe this work, corrective exercise, painful PT rehabilitation, it goes from a chore of something you fucking have to do to self-care, something I get to do. And the only thing that flips that is your nervous system. And it's a matter of, is it going to be in a couple of days? Is it a couple of weeks? Is this going to be a couple of months? How long do we have to go until this is like your body's going to say, Tony, drop down into this position right now. You're done for the day. Now it's time to breathe and get back in. Right. This is the relationship that we have with stuff that works. I think strenuous PT exercises are, of course, helpful. They probably really activate the system in a beautiful way. But if there's resistance, you got to listen to that a little bit. Maybe your body's craving something a little different. And I think this might be able to help fill in the blanks, Michael.
And for everyone out there, most of you have some sort of martial art inkling going on here, but there's that yin and yang stuff that's been around. There's a reason for that. There's a time to sleep and there's a time to fight. So speaking of that, Eleanor has a question because she's just a few months into your program, but I think she posted this question before you answered it, but because you did mention, the algorithm starts to figure out stuff. And you said something interesting there. So folks listening, Vinny said is something you get to do. And I want to kind of highlight that line because in the beginning, you go to the doctor and he says, here, take these pills and do these exercises and come back to me in a month and we'll do some more, blah, blah, blah. And what you end up doing is someone says, hey, let's go do XYZ. And you go, no, I have to do this. I can't do this anymore. I have to do that. And if you find something that is actually helping you down regulate with the amount of stress we have, we had a lot of stress when we were cavemen, right? As well. But we got way more coming at us right now. And maybe we don't have to worry about, a volcano and an avalanche and a saber-tooth tiger eating us, but we got a lot of shit coming at us now. Being able to down regulate, and I mean, everyone I see is fucking shitty posture, except for people that are, so you got to work on that. But I think you already answered this, but I don't know if you have a quick answer to Eleanor.
Yeah. So there are 4 pathways that I give people. So 4 options, because you are the master of your own destiny here. You're in the driver's seat. Once you complete the year-long program, option 1, you just spend a year coming up with your perfect mobility, stability, strength routines. Continue doing what you're doing because it's working. Option number 2 is, well, you've carved out your own path in the program. So there's actually a lot of routines and exercises you haven't done. Option 2 is still continuing with what you're doing, but exploring 2 days a week what those routines are that you missed. Option 3, and this might sound daunting, but it's starting the program over. You are going to have a different experience. You're not starting at day 1. You're doing it with a year's worth of better mobility, stability, strength, and function. So you choosing option 3 and starting over from scratch is you going to realize there's routines that you hated that now are your favorite. There's routines that you loved that are now not as useful to you because your body's already made those adaptations. Option 4 you continue doing everything you're doing, but I now add on something that I ingeniously call the cardio program. It's now time to train the cardiovascular system and make your tissue more durable, more fatigue resistant, which just gives you a greater shelf life to movement. So you've got 4 options after year 1, and I'm going to present those same 4 options to you each year as your movement practice evolves and progresses.
Dig it. I'm going to feature Eleanor's one more time because she says this about you. I don't know. Is this your mom and you paid her to post, or because she?
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
You changed her life, man. So let me see if there's anything else here.
Yeah. I got a really cool community, man. I get to be for them what somebody was for me, and I'll go to bat for that guy for the rest of my life because I now get to live it.
Right.
So it's a pretty cool community that we have here.
I dig it. Okay. I think those are all the questions we got.
Great.
Dude, I can't wait to explore more. And if something, when you get back or you get some sort of epiphany or new program, you want to come back on and share it. I'm excited, guys. Like, I just discovered Vinny in the last couple of months and the program, and I've started integrating it. Those of you who do that private coaching with me, I've shared the link to his program and told you guys about it in there. I don't market or promote anything that I haven't tasted and tested. Not only did I find the program effective, but his generosity and humility was really unique in this world where it's like, what's in it for me, And a lot of people are. I remember reaching out to a guy to have him on my podcast. I liked something that he did. He was a retired SEAL, and I reached out to him, and his assistant wanted to know how big our audience was, what our downloads were. They were like basically saying, like, is this worth his time? And I was like, you know what? Fuck you. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
So that meant a lot to me that you wanted to help me first, and I will not forget that.
Of course.
Vinny, hang on a couple of minutes after we sign off here. Guys, if you're listening, everyone you know is in pain. Share this podcast, and you may be helping someone in a way that they never realized. Go watch his stories, his video. He's got a pretty cool a website that very succinctly explains what it's about, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Stand by.